There is a boy in this story who is the smartest student in the college. But one day, he falls in love with a beautiful adult star, due to which he faces some problems in his life, which we are going to see in this story. And in the beginning of this story, we see a boy named Matthew, who is a very good student in studies and is the smartest student in the college. But even after being so smart, he was very boring. Because apart from studies, he was mostly away from other things, because of which no college girl took interest in him. And this was the last year of Matthew's college, and he was preparing to take a scholarship for his higher education. But Matthew was not happy with all this, because till date, he had not done anything that he could remember later as a beautiful moment. And he felt that he had spent his whole life studying. So one day, Matthew decides that from now on, he will do the same things that his students do, like making friends with girls, talking to them, and enjoying. Now, in the meantime, one day Matthew sees that a very beautiful girl has come to live next to his house, whose name is Daniel. And Daniel was so beautiful that she looked like a supermodel. Now, that night when Matthew was talking to his friend on the phone, he saw Daniel's window, who was changing his clothes. And seeing this, Matthew gets very excited and starts looking at him secretly. But then Daniel sees Matthew, after which she comes straight to his house. Then Matthew's dad calls him downstairs. He gets a little scared. He thought that Daniel might have come and complained to his dad. Now Matthew comes down scared, but then his dad tells him that Daniel has not come to this city and he does not know anything about this city. So you help him and go with him. Now, when they are going together, Daniel stops the car and asks Matthew, "How did you feel seeing me without clothes?" To which Matthew says, "Sorry, it all happened suddenly. But actually, you are very beautiful." Hearing this, Daniel says that now I also want to see you the same way. After this, Matthew takes off his clothes and stands in front of the car. But then Daniel starts the car and starts running with Matthew's clothes and starts chasing him behind the car. But a little later, Daniel comes back and says to Matthew, "I was just kidding with you." After this, Matthew comes inside the car and sits down and talks to both of them. And this way, they become very good friends. Now the next day, we see that when Matthew is in his class, Daniel comes there and calls him out of the class, after which both of them leave from there and spend a lot of good time with each other. Then in the evening, they both go to someone's swimming pool and take a bath. And both of them come very close to each other and kiss each other. But then Matthew realizes that this pool is his principal's, so both of them immediately run away from there. After that, both of them go to a party of Matthew's friend, where all of Matthew's friends become flat as soon as they see Daniel, and they start trying to impress Daniel. But this time, Matthew decided that he will make Daniel his girlfriend. So he goes to Daniel and starts kissing him in front of everyone. Now let's see the scene of the next day, where Matthew was very happy inside after kissing Daniel. But then, a friend of his comes to him and tells him that the girl whom you thought was a beautiful girl is actually an adult star. And he starts showing her those videos of Daniel. And as soon as he sees all this, Matthew's heart breaks. And he gets disappointed and starts leaving. But then his friend tells him that if he is an adult star, then what happened? You should take advantage of this thing, and you can do whatever you want with him. Now, after hearing all this, Matthew goes straight to Daniel, where she was sitting with his mother and looking at his childhood photos. And there, Matthew tells Daniel that you have to take me somewhere. After that, they both go to a hotel together, and there, Matthew tells Daniel to take off his clothes. Now Daniel had understood what Matthew wanted from him, on which Daniel tells him that you are misunderstanding me. I have stopped doing all this for a long time, and now I want to live a normal life. And I was feeling very good to be close to you, but you also thought me wrong. Saying this, she gets angry with Matthew and leaves. Then the next day, we see that Matthew goes to Daniel's house to apologize to him. But during this time, he meets another man there, whose name is Callie. Now Matthew comes out and Matthew asks her that how do you know Daniel? Callie says that I am Daniel's producer and also his ex-boyfriend. Then the next day when Matthew was going to college, he sees that Callie is flirting with girls. Then Callie also sees Matthew there and he starts praising Matthew in front of those girls. After this, Matthew goes to the bank with Callie to deposit the scholarship money of the student union. After going to the bank, the employee of the bank asks, "Who is he?" Matthew tells her that he is our student advisor. The next day, we see Daniel who is going somewhere. Then Matthew comes there and asks her, "Where are you going?" Daniel says that I can never change myself and I can never live a normal life. So I am going back to Las Vegas with Callie. Now here Matthew also started loving Daniel, so he decides to bring Daniel back. After that, he takes his friends and leaves for Las Vegas. Now after reaching there, Matthew and his friends go inside a club, where they see that Daniel was showing off in front of everyone in half naked. So he goes behind him and tries to explain to him that you don't have to do all this. But then Callie comes there and starts threatening Matthew by taking him to a room with him. And he also pushes him and says that why are you stopping Daniel from working? Go away from here and don't interfere in my business. Now after so much of threatening by Callie, Matthew goes back to Daniel and explains to him that you shouldn't do all this. Saying this, he takes his friends and leaves from there. Then the next day, we see that when Matthew is at his house, Daniel comes to pick him up for his college. Then while going to college, Matthew asks Daniel to go to the party with him, to which Daniel also agrees. Then we see Matthew in the class, where today was a very important day for him. Because if he passes the scholarship exam today, he can go to a big college for higher studies. But during the exam, Kelly comes there and takes Matthew away from there. Because Matthew has forced Daniel to come here and has caused him harm. After this, Kelly takes him by car and locks him in one place and beats him badly. And after taking out all his anger, he gives drugs to Matthew and tells him that if he does one thing for him, he will never come between him and Daniel again. After this, he takes Matthew to a man named Meady's house and asks him to steal Meady's trophy from there and leaves him inside the house and comes out and calls the police. We see the same Matthew who picks up the trophy from that house and runs away with it. Then he sees Maddie standing in front of him. He starts running away. But Maddie leaves a parrot behind Matthew. And Matthew, running away from the parrot, runs away from the house. But then he sees the police coming from the front, so he hides in one place and calls his friend. Then his friend comes and saves him and brings him with him. Now in the next scene, we see that Matthew and Daniel go to college to give a scholarship speech. But Matthew starts getting high on drugs there, which makes him do strange things. And then he goes to the stage to give a speech, but he can't see his speech well because of the high, so he throws the script and starts talking nicely in front of everyone. And without the script, he gives a very good speech without any script, which everyone starts clapping for him. But when the final result of the speech comes that who will get the scholarship, his name is not mentioned there and another student is given the scholarship. After this, when he goes to the Matthew Bank, he finds out that the $25,000 fund he had collected for the students, Callie took it out as a student advisor. Now Matthew gets shocked after hearing this and tells this to Daniel and his friends. After this, they all make a plan to teach a lesson to Callie. After this, Matthew and Daniel go to Maddie, who was an adult producer like Callie. There, Matthew tells Maddie everything and returns his trophy to him. Then, he tells Maddie that if you give us $25,000, we will make the best video of the world for you. Now Maddie is happy to hear this, and he is ready to give him the money. Now after this, everyone starts making videos together, where Daniel also calls his old friends, who were an adult star like him. After this, they go to prom, where everyone was watching them. everyone was looking at him. Then Matthew's classmates come there and tell him that these girls are adult stars. On which Matthew tells them that would you like to work with them? Upon hearing this, his friends become happy and say yes. After this, they all together shoot the video that night. And after enjoying there a lot, everyone goes to their own homes. And after everyone leaves, Matthew and Daniel remain in the car, and both get very close to each other alone. Then the next day, Matthew's friend calls him and tells him that someone has stolen our video. Then Matthew sees that Callie has reached his house with that videotape, which he had shot last night, from which he was going to get $25,000 from the media. Then we see that Callie threatens Matthew that he wants half of the earnings of these videos, and if he doesn't do that, he will show this tape to his principal and parents. But Matthew refuses him, and then Callie goes and shows that tape to everyone. But when the video starts, we see that it has only one sexual education class, which everyone praises Matthew a lot of money with which he pays the fees of his university. And he gives $25,000 to the student for the scholarship, and then he makes Callie the advisor of all the students, which becomes a friendship between the two. After that, Matthew buys a luxury car for himself with the remaining money, and finally we see that Matthew and Daniel have also met together. And both are happy. And with this happiness, this story ends here. So friends, I hope you like this story. To watch more such interesting stories, subscribe to us quickly. And suggest in the comment section which story you want to see next.